Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Straight Talk Vermont show. I'm Bruce Wilson, and I'm here with our incredible guest. And before we get to our incredible guest, I want to go over some updates. Art's So Wonderful, ARTS So Wonderful, is one of our programs, and this is our mural season. And we're preparing our mural at Thorson Way in Burlington for Juneteenth event, which will be Juneteenth in Burlington is June 20th from 1 to 3. And so we have an incredible mural that's going to be printed there. I'm not printed, but painted there. It's going to be painted like paint by numbers. Our artist is going to draft it, and then they're going to paint by, people will come up and, this is purple, this is blue, this is yellow, And so I'm looking forward to that. This will be our third year. The city of Burlington sponsor it, and others. So 802, True 802, REIB, Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging are our sponsors for this event, and they sponsor this event now for the last 3 years. So if you want to go see any of the previous year's murals, Juneteenth murals, you just walk down Thorson Way between Aches Place and Red Square. And as you walk down that alleyway, Thorson Way, which we're going to change the name hopefully one day or add a name, Art's So Wonderful Lane or something, and Thorson Way, of course. You'll see all these incredible murals down there. Oh man, it's so beautiful down there. And when we first started doing those murals down there, the alleyway down there was pitiful. It was like, I'm from Chicago, and I walked down some alleys, but that alley was like, graffitied up and ugly, nasty. And now there's restaurants back there out in the alley, and people walk by there. And we did a survey last year about some of the patrons from the restaurant, asking why they, what they think about the murals, and some of them said that they came to their restaurant because of the murals. So it's a beautiful thing. And if you want to get involved with those murals, just go to Art's So Wonderful, ARTS SO wonderful.com, and look up Alondra de la Cuesta, who's our art director, or Bruce Wilson, and we'll be more than to help you. And so now, I am very excited to have a guest once again, Big Hartman from Human Rights Commission. She's the executive director and general counsel, and my friend, and we're here to update our audience about what's going on at HRC and how to get involved, and ways that you can, if you have any situations, how you can, let us know how we can help you, because that's what our goal is, to help the people who we serve. So, Big Hartman.
Hey, thanks so much. So nice to be back here.
Oh man, it's always good to see you. You're coming from a long ways,
all the way from Montpelier.
Montpelier, man.
not that bad.
Not that bad.
No.
It's not that bad, unless it's like snowing.
Yeah.
Because then it's like the snow is at the highest point. It's right there on 87. That way. Yeah. So what's happening?
Well, it's another busy time for us. It's pretty much always a busy time for us. There is no shortage of human rights work to be doing right now. I've been pretty busy with the legislative session this year. We're coming towards the end of the legislative session, and that'll be a relief when that is behind us. And yeah, just another year of a lot of complaint activity. Our staff grew this year.
Yeah.
So we went from 7 staff total to 9.
Wow, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Last summer, and that was really big. We got a full-time intake coordinator and another staff attorney investigator, which brings us to 4 staff attorney investigator positions total for the whole state. It's just really exciting to be able to continue to grow, and we are hoping and expecting that we'll get one more position from the budget this year for fiscal year 27. I wish it was a policy person, but it's a staff attorney investigator, which is also really badly needed. Yeah. So we'll have 5 staff attorney investigators serving Vermonters. As you know, our office investigates complaints of discrimination in housing, places of public accommodation, and state employment. So hopefully getting up to 5 total investigators will enable us to process even more complaint investigations than ever before. It certainly will. And also we hope to see more and more cases where we're able to help parties resolve the complaint before we have to go to determination from the commissioners.
All right. So if an individual or person want to think they have some complaint of a discrimination, or I mean, not it's all discrimination. What they need to do? How do they register? What they do?
Yeah, so folks can contact our office in a variety of ways to report discrimination and request an investigation. Of course, we still won't have the capacity to accept all the complaints that people want to file with us, but we'll be accepting as many as we possibly can. It's really exciting. In the last couple months, we have totally revamped the initial complaint process. People can always still call us, or they can come by our office, or they can mail us a letter or anything they want us to know, or they can email us. But we also now have a way improved online form. Anyone who's tried to fill out the online form we've used in the past would have been frustrated with the PDF that we were using for many years. Yeah, you need a certain amount of technology to work on your device, and then you couldn't always fill in all the entries, or some of the questions were really difficult to understand. So we created an online form that's embedded in our website. It's super easy to fill out. You can provide all the information about what you want us to investigate in an online form. And then our staff review that, and then we'll be in touch with anyone who submits a form to find out more information. Yeah, so it's right under File a Complaint. And that is the tab you can click on to find our online form.
Nice.
Yeah, but we very commonly just have folks email us at human.rights@vermont.gov and just give us some preliminary information, or just call us. We do try to have someone staffed to answer the phone like a real human being,
so
to talk to more than we ever have in the past. We're really trying to prioritize that, because we know how much folks who are experiencing discrimination need to get support right away.
Right. And it's just so frustrating when you have to talk to a AI or something, or a person, not a real person, and then you I just need to speak to a representative. Well, just tell me what you need. I probably can help you. So you're I just want to speak to representative.
Right.
You say it over and over and over.
Keep pressing to just waiting.
Right.
And then you get a voicemail. Hopefully that won't happen. But if folks do leave us a voicemail, it's always our goal to return calls within 2 business days.
So, as one of the human rights commissioners, we know we do. When we come down to answering recommendations on some of the answers about being reasonable or unreasonable, right? So how's that go? Why isn't it guilty or not guilty? It's kind of reasonable or not, or unreasonable.
Yeah, our statute, and this is in state law, so we are totally a creation of state law within Title IX of our Vermont statutes. It outlines the Human Rights Commission authority. That's what gives us authority to investigate complaints, and for our commissioners to have to issue what's called a determination. And that is typically based on an investigative report that's written by a staff member, and I approve those, we work on them together, and then they get shared with the commissioners. And for whatever reason, when they wrote the statute, the statute says that the commissioners will decide if there's reasonable grounds to believe that discrimination occurred, or no reasonable grounds. So it's not a clear and convincing evidence standard, and it's not beyond a reasonable doubt standard.
Right.
It's just, are there reasonable grounds?
Right.
And that determination doesn't have the force of law. It's not like a judge's decree. You don't bang the gavel and all of a sudden someone is ordered to do anything with that finding. But it usually it is significant in our process. If somebody's complaint, if the commissioners find there's no reasonable grounds in a case, that's going to close the file for us. Our work on that case is essentially done. But if we find reasonable grounds, we hold it open longer. And the statute then says we have a 6-month time period that can be extended by agreement of the parties, in which we're trying to see if we can help the parties resolve the complaint altogether. And it's really a way to filter some cases out of having to go through court. Because if we're able to work out a settlement either during our investigation phase or after we find reasonable grounds to believe that discrimination occurred, well, then that means that we will have diverted a case from having to go all the way to a jury trial or something.
Right.
And hopefully the person who was discriminated against is made whole in some way for that. And we usually like to see cases that our settlements that we're involved with will have some element of what we call public interest relief.
Right.
This is something that's going to make us feel that the public is being served by this settlement agreement. Usually it means that the person or entity that we think has discriminated is going to engage in some education and training, so we don't.
That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
my
we're
next
not
question
worried
about
that they're going to come back and make
Right.
the same mistake
Right.
again. And sometimes there's other ways that we can see them through public interest relief promise to make changes to how they do things, so that it'll be less likely that they'll
Right,
have another HRC complaint in the future.
And that's awesome. And then that's on HRC complaints, and that's people who like reasonable grounds, who like in housing, schools, even law enforcement, and so are you saying that in some cases or a lot of cases that we actually provide a training for them, whereas that they won't come back and see us on the same type of issues, or is that what you said?
Yeah, in many cases we end up with an agreement that often it is the HRC is the entity that's going to provide the training that we think that they need. But sometimes they'll get the training somewhere else, and as long as we can identify that it was probably a problem with education, that their staff or employees or managers weren't aware of their obligations under our anti-discrimination protections, and usually some education will go a long way to prevent future incidents.
Yeah, so I know we've done some like Know Your Rights and classes or dialogues with community in the community, and so how do like organizations get involved in ask you, can you do training for them?
Yeah, we get those kind of inquiries all the time. You can just pop an email to our main inbox, that human.rights@vermont.gov, and request a training, and we'll work with entities that are interested in getting training to make sure it's a curriculum that they are interested in and that they're wanting, and then we'll just schedule it out. We do really try to offer as many trainings as we can. We also have a lot of trainings on the calendar right now because they're a result of settlements that have happened in the past. I have a lot of trainings scheduled for the next school year with different school districts who are, some are required to have a training plan with us, and others want to have a training with us. And so those tend to be focused on harassment and harassment prevention in schools, which is continuing to be a large portion of our public accommodations cases. And we need to see those numbers move. We really need to see measurable progress on how kids are experiencing school to ensure that they have the same access as kids who are not subject to any type of harassing conduct.
Yeah, and so big. Wow, you've been on so many different. You've really been out there, boots on the ground, presenting about what HRC is and all the things what we offer. Can you just name some of those things shows you've been on besides Straight Talk Vermont show?
Sure. We really have. I have, as I've been director now for almost 3 years, I've really been wanting to step up our training offerings and serve the community in a more outward-facing way. And I know this is a value we both really share, which is getting those boots on the ground in the community. And we try to offer trainings that aren't being offered by other entities. So that's where our harassment prevention trainings come in come into the fold. Then I've also done a good number of trainings for different community groups that are particularly for the LGBTQ plus community. So I have a Know Your Rights training about what discrimination, what rights we have for LGBTQ plus protection from discrimination and harassment. I do a bi-monthly fair housing training that's online and free. You can sign up for it through our website. And that's a 3-hour session about all things fair housing. That tends to be more geared towards landlords and property managers and the folks that are likely to have a complaint filed against them. And so it's a great opportunity, and I'm a real big believer in live trainings. Right. Doesn't necessarily need to be in person, but there needs to be opportunities for folks attending to be engaged with what they're learning about and ask questions and get those questions answered. So that's a big one. And then, as you know, last year we had this amazing 3-day Civil Rights Summit in the fall, and we're already planning for the next one of those, which is going to be held the last weekend of September of 2026. Last year we did a hybrid event, so people could attend in person or virtually, or mix and match. And we're going to use that same model again, and it's going to be at the same place there in Central Vermont.
Up to over 300 some people, maybe more than that. How many people? Over 300. I know that.
Yeah, I think around just over 300 was the total number of attendees that we had.
I was, in hybrid virtual. I don't know how many was there, but it was a lot of people there in that room. Yeah,
and we had over 40 speakers and people who were participating, and that was absolutely goal of our summit in 2025 was to really uplift the voices of community organizations, advocates, and activists who are on the front lines of defending our civil rights every day.
No, I know, man. So, wow, Civil Rights Summit, man. That was our first one, and now we're going to our second one this year, 2026.
Yeah.
It's at mid-September, is it?
It's the last weekend of September, so I think it's the 25th, 26th, and 27th. It'll be Friday through Sunday. The thought being that it's not just meant for folks whose job it is to do civil rights work, but for community members to be able to come and engage together in community.
Right. So, I noticed a lot of discrimination here, a person of color, me, an African American. I know I've heard some cases where people who look like me through HRC commission. Do you have a number of people who might complain, like, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right words to say, who might have complained about racial discrimination who might look like me, who people of color? Or,
like numbers?
Yeah. I mean, if, you don't have to be accurate, but this would...
Well, certainly the vast majority of our complaints are brought involving disability discrimination.
Oh, okay.
But the second largest category of complaints involve race and color-based discrimination. And then, earlier this year, in 2025, actually, the legislature passed additional protections in our anti-discrimination law involving fair housing and places of public accommodation to add immigration status and citizenship as additional legally protected categories. We have some of the most expansive laws in the country for anti-discrimination, and we're really, really proud of that. But the reality is that, in proportion to the amount of people of color that we have a very disproportionate number of those folks experiencing discrimination and harassment here in Vermont. So we really do try to prioritize those cases. When I have to make those tough decisions about accepting or not accepting a complaint for investigation, we place a high priority on accepting race-based discrimination complaints. Tough, folks don't have anywhere else to go with that stuff.
Plus, too, a lot of discrimination, people who look like me or BIPOC, whatever, is because they don't know. They just go by what they don't. It's only like 1.4% African Americans live in the state of Vermont, and they just still never know about me. I don't live next door to them. I'm not their neighbors. Well, same thing. I don't go to school or church with them. And I'm going to the grocery store with them, anything like that. So, how would they actually know about me? Based on the only way they're going to learn about me is probably through some stereotypical way through the news media. something they read, right? And they don't get it from like me, from who I am. You know what I mean? So that's a situation. That's when people make judgments around people who look like us. It don't not necessarily mean that they're prejudiced or they're just not educated, you know, about someone who look like me or a gay person, you know, who they just like think a gay person is whatever they might think, you know what I mean? But
Right.
they should just ask them, you know what I mean? Ask them what their pronouns and ask them how they feel about life, what way they should be addressed, you know. And so it's so surprising to me because I lived in Vermont since 1989, and people, you know, when they first of all they think that I'm from New York, you know, and I say no, I'm from Chicago. They think that I know. Well, it's kind of weird. I like New York, but I can't stand it when somebody think I already say that I'm from New York because it's like right around the corner. How come I can't come from Chicago? And then when they learn about who I am and the work that I do, you know, and it's overwhelming to me to even talk about it and to say what I do and you know the work that I do. Sometimes they look at me like still like he can't be he can't be the Vermont Human Rights Commissioner. He can't be on these boards of commission. He can't have cable shows. They still say to me, no, they still don't believe me. You know, so it's kind of I don't know. I guess I'm just preaching.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stereotypes still happening unconsciously in our minds, and I think as white people, when we're so surrounded by so many other white people, those stereotypes can kind of stay. You know, we don't get enough opportunities to shake up our biases and test our, assumptions about people enough. And that's why, I think you and I also share a passion for like diversity trainings and work that kind of uplifts the diversity of experiences of humans.
Yeah. You man, you're perfect for the ED job. I'm like, and I don't know. Something hit me. Like I was thinking about HRC, Human Rights Commission. And I was thinking that for some reason I'm like, oh no, I don't know where the cat came from. Like, I said, Big is leaving or something. I was like, no, it was crazy. It was weird as hell. I'm telling you.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm telling you, it was crazy as hell. And I'm like, oh no, because nobody, because I know three other previous EDs for HRC, and I worked with them in some capacity, and they did a great job, but usually when you everything you say you was gonna do, you're doing it, and you're not satisfied, And
Right.
the good thing I like about you is that you your staff, you make sure that they do it too. They make sure that they like boots on the ground, they engage with the community and the people that they serve, and being more being objective, non-judgmental, the best they can with everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so I really appreciate that. I'm always happy. You make me happy all the time. And for real. I'll tell anybody. I was like, I'll stand next to you anywhere else in the world. And whatever you say, I'm down with it. I know you're only gonna be saying the right things, and because you believe in helping people with their, with their rights, and you believe in no bullshit. For real. Let's get it right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how you are. You like it's good. We're gonna get it right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think
who you might be talking to.
When I was in college, thinking about what I was going to do with my one life here, I very much needed to do work that would address social injustices. That was the only thing I could see myself doing. Other people, so I applied to law school with that frame of mind. Other people went to law school with way different reasons for being there. And now when I look back at that young person I was, I truly do feel now every day that I am doing the job that I dreamed I would have,
No doubt.
25 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm 3 years into the position.
Wow, 3 years.
It's been 3 years, just about here this summer.
You've done so much.
And I feel like we've grown, been able to grow our office significantly, which I see as a huge victory. We've been able to, really be a part of a lot of important policy conversations across the state. We're expanding our boots on the ground, as you know, was a commitment that I wanted to make. I still hope to improve our website. That's something I promised on and I have not delivered yet, but there's a lot of bureaucracy involved in changing a website. We're working on that. But, you know, aside from the website, it's been important for me to make sure that we get a lot of plain language information out to the public about our services, our complaint process, and so our guide for complainants and respondents was a big piece of that. That's, you know, we have all this beautiful material anytime we're tabling at an event, and people are just taking that stuff every day. We need to keep printing more and more of it. So we'll keep on making materials like that. Yeah, we also made a Know Your Rights guide for parents and caregivers of LGBTQ plus students with Outright Vermont. That's always on our table. And right now we're working on a disability rights booklet as well.
Nice.
Yeah, disability discrimination booklet.
And the booklet, they're so pretty.
I try.
I mean, you open those up, you know, it's so, the format, the font, everything is like so nice, the color.
Yeah.
It's Vermont colors, but you know, it's so nice, man.
Right, and we are, you know, we have to practice what we preach. We want to see more information be more accessible to all different kinds of people, and so that means that it's visibly accessible, it's understandable for people at different reading levels, and that makes it easier to translate into multiple languages, which is also a priority for us. So, you know, we always will have more and more work to do, and I think it's a really important value of mine to always be looking at, you know, what can we do better? What do we need to do better?
It's tough, man. Where the world is going, where our governance is going, you know, federal governance is going across the country. It's tough, man. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a piece I didn't totally see coming when I became director.
You got to duck and beat
that our federal government was going to kind of stop being a partner in civil rights enforcement and start to use our civil rights enforcement agencies at the federal level to kind of turn civil rights on its head. And, you know, one of the things that I try to make clear for Vermonters who are hearing me in a public forum speak is that we're not pulling back at all. In fact, we recognize how important it is that our office kind of double down to fill the void of civil rights work that we should be doing in partnership with the federal government. And if we can't rely on our federal government to enforce our civil rights, that's what agencies like ours are here to do. At the state level, the feds can't change what our amazing, expansive state law protections say, and then it's just about us being able to have the capacity to enforce those on an ongoing basis, and we are not backing down.
I know, Big. You know, Big Hartman don't back down off of nothing. Plus, that's why I'd be like, kick that ass, Big. And like, you know, one of our biggest things is housing. So we work with HUD housing, you know, and a couple years ago, we went to a conference in was that Arizona?
It was in Denver. We went to the HUD conference for fair housing enforcement.
Yeah, that was a good. It was a lot of amazing, incredible people there, and things were really good around that time with HUD housing and how the ways the laws was written, and we was following them, and most people there was following them. They had new ideas, and they wanted to reach out to everybody, wanted to be synergized, be proactive, be collaborate with everybody across the country, and we were there to do that, and it was a wonderful opportunity, and I learned a lot. I certainly learned a lot from people that were there.
And you met so many people. Every time I saw you, you were talking to someone different. You were getting people's cards everywhere you went. You know, and that's what I think there is. No matter what is happening with the federal government, there are so many people across our country who have been fighting for fair housing, especially for decades, and we're going to just continue to figure out how to keep the momentum without relying on HUD, which has always been a partner, an important partner and an important funder for fair housing work across the country. But what I appreciate is that at the legislative side this year, I was able to go and talk to legislators about the changes that we're seeing at HUD and the risk that we may not be able to rely on any HUD funding moving forward. And the legislature heard me, and they responded by making sure that our funding would not be reduced even if we didn't get any HUD dollars. And so they really stepped in to increase our general fund allocation just by a small amount and didn't take millions of dollars.
Increase is good.
And that means that even if the federal government continues to, we'll say, let us down on civil rights enforcement, that our state government has stepped in to make sure that it doesn't change the services that we're able to offer. So that's, we really do have a supportive legislature.
Yeah, and they believe in our HRC, they believe in the Human Rights Commission. And so it's all about language now. I mean, you got one minute you have to everything written in plain view. Now you got to use certain language. I mean, like with the HUD, you gotta the words you use. It's got to be, you got to be very creative. How you use words about how we can move forth. And
there are unfortunately many nonprofits in Vermont that receive federal funds and are being flagged if they use words like diversity, equity, and inclusion on their materials, or if they promote that they're translating documents into other languages. We are not in the world where our office is not at all in the world where we have to censor anything that we're saying.
That's nice.
We are not going to change our programming or what we call it because we're scared that the feds might pull money. But there are important organizations in Vermont who are having to do that and figure out workarounds. And that's what I think a lot of creative thinking is happening for those of us who are advocates for civil rights, to just figure out what's the workaround we need to do to make sure we aren't, cutting back on the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe we only have like one more year and a half left. This type of things might change back or go.
I think we have at least 3 years left. It's only been 1 year of this administration.
Oh, really? It's only been 1 year?
It's a long year.
Oh.
I mean, a little more than 1 year, but yeah, we got a few more years. So we just need to, bide our time and be smart. And I think that's where it's important that we build partnerships. We build partnerships across regions. So for instance, I meet on a monthly basis with the other Human Rights Commission directors in New England, and we're always sharing ideas, comparing what we're doing, so that we make sure we're, kind of on the pulse of how our counterparts are continuing to be effective.
But so HRC, Human Rights Commission, we can't receive no donations, like financial donations?
We're a state office. We're a state agency, so we don't receive any, we don't have a mechanism to receive donations. We do charge fees for some of our trainings, and that is one way that we've generated a little bit of money to help us print out our materials. We use outreach fees for outreach activities. But it's a pretty small amount, and there's really actually no general fund dollars that we get in our budget each year to do outreach. So we just have to, like I said, we're creative, we're figuring out workarounds, we're building our partnerships with other entities that, have common missions.
Yeah, we need a new building. We need a couple more staff members.
I always think we need more staff.
Definitely.
Maybe someday I will sit with you and tell you, all right, we're good now.
Oh, that'd be so
But
wonderful.
in my experience, as we have, as I think the dialogue has shifted at the national level, and folks that are protected by our anti-discrimination protections tend to be targeted, and hate is on the rise, there's an increasing need for anti-discrimination work. And
it'd be nice if we had some more offices somewhere. That's my dream, to have points around Vermont. have some more HRC offices, and you'll be like, oh damn, I gotta go down
Yeah.
there.
Logistically, that sounds tricky, but I agree. We are, right now
Satellite offices, maybe I should
we're
say.
plotting a statewide tour. We want to get into a lot of, especially the kind of rural communities that we don't get to too often in the next several months, as we want to talk to the public about a very exciting equal rights amendment that is going to be on our ballots this year for a Vermont constitutional amendment to ensure that all people have equal rights under the law and are not treated differently by the state.
Right.
So that's a great, exciting thing. Most states in the country have an equal rights amendment in their constitution. Our state, for whatever reason, has never had one. I feel like there's a little bit of misunderstanding in the public that folks seem to think we already have one, but we absolutely do not yet have an equal rights amendment. And I'm very excited at the prospect that we will voters all in Vermont will get to make that choice, yes or no, do we want an equal rights amendment in our Vermont state constitution?
I'm a founder, one of the co-founders of Burlington Community Justice Center, which started up I think it's 23. Well, we less than now, and I think I'm gonna be on the advisory board. They tell me it'd be nice to see like HRC satellites in those offices. That could happen. Maybe.
Yeah, we are working on our referral network too, where we're going around to our director of community engagement, Kate Perlberg-Quam, is going around to different local nonprofits that folks who either would refer people to our office or who we might refer people to their office, and get to know each other to kind of build that network around the state. And I think that the restorative justice centers are a really important place for that. And we really, as we've built up our intake program, we want to be able to, a lot of folks call us for things that aren't actually about discrimination. There's something else going on that a complaint, an HRC complaint isn't going to solve that problem.
Right, exactly.
We want to be able to meaningfully refer them over, not just like give them a website or a phone number to call and say, good luck. We want to kind of give a handoff if we can. So that means we build our relationships throughout the state to be able to provide meaningful local referrals whenever we can.
That's awesome. We do a lot with the staff we have, and we just don't have enough, And so I don't know how many you're going to need, but I don't know how many. But
well, let's see. Last legislative session, I asked for 8 new positions, and I got 2. This legislative session, everyone was feeling like the budget was going to be even harder than it was the year before. So I reduced my ask to 3 new positions, and I got 1. So I'll just keep asking, and hopefully, little by little, we'll be able to continue to grow. We would absolutely accept more complaints for investigation if we had more staff.
Well, Vic, what's in the show with some last thoughts you might have for people? There's your camera right there. You can say it. You can say it right to them. Or you say it to me.
We hope that people will get informed about the Equal Rights Amendment that is coming on the ballot in November. It's a really big opportunity. It's been it's a 4-year legislative process to even get it on the ballot, and the truth is that for decades advocates have been trying to get an equal rights amendment on the ballot. So this might be our only chance, and we hope that folks will get informed about what it's called PR4 or Proposal 4, and there have been some news articles about it recently. And then we hope folks will come to our summit. It's again going to be September 25th to 27th in Randolph, Vermont. We will be getting word out about that through all of our community channels. And we also have monthly newsletters, and we're putting more and more information in there for folks. So if you want to get on our list, you just need to pop us an email at human.rights@vermont.gov.
Nice. Well, thank you, Big Hartman,
Thank you.
for coming on a Straight Talk from our show, and I'll see you.
pleasure.
When's our next meeting? When's our next?
It's coming up. There's one every month.
Coming up. I know. 9 to 4:30.
Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter.
Well, thank you again. Thanks
right.
for tuning in to Straight Talk from our show. See you next time.